Out, you could not have expected that, Dan. I'm saying that I'm pretty comfortable talking race, and if he had done that, I would have felt like bees had hit my face, and I would have backpedaled because I would have been that surprised by that making an appearance that suddenly in the middle of what it is you were doing.
I just wanted to give him the opportunity to talk, and that was it. I tried to just have him clarify it. You know, after what he said in the GQ article, I thought, okay, it sort of hung there, and then nobody in the media followed up on what I thought was the most important part of that. And that's, you're calling Phil Jackson a racist. I don't care what he says about Kevin Durant. That's his opinion. And he's earned that right to, have, a critique of Kevin Durant. His coach, that was different. And I thought, okay, he'll put it into context and maybe say, you know what? That's not what I meant. Or, Phil was whatever. And then all of a sudden he doubled down and went, okay, now we have a conversation going on here.
Again, we backpedaled immediately and just went straight to shilling the bourbon.
I was hammered.
We just started shilling the bourbon. But as you went down this path with him, are you surprised? Because we were just talking before about his level of bitterness, and Stugotz is still out here saying that he's not that good and that what?
That's not what I said. He's great, Scottie Pippen, but he has all of this because of Michael Jordan. So I don't understand the bitterness. If not, listen, he's Sean Kemp if he doesn't play with Michael Jordan. So someone was going to play with Michael. He was the second guy, and because of it, he's a top 50 player of all time. He should be thankful to Michael.
Did you hear all of the bitterness, Dan, or were you surprised by the amount of bitterness?
I'm just wondering if this was built up for the last 25 years. And nobody ever asked him. We always wanted to talk to Phil. We always wanted to talk to Michael. And I think Scottie was just sort of there, not simmering, because I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think there was something that he was just kind of, maybe filing away. And then the documentary comes out. He's not portrayed like one of the 50 greatest players of all time. And I think there's other things that have happened in his life with his wife and a divorce. He loses a child. This culmination of, who am I? What was I? What am I? As I move forward, everybody's talking about Michael and the documentary. And I thought that it felt like Scottie was collateral damage there a little bit.
It's fascinating to me on a number of fronts, Dan. One of them being we remember the hissing and angry and defiant Hall of Fame speech of Michael Jordan. If these two guys at the height of winning in sports carry this around inside of them, it must be really really hard to stay happy there. Look at what it did to Kevin Durant. Like, in terms of how hard is it to stay atop all of the critics when you're talking about Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen late in life seeming really kind of pissed off at us?
Well, when you're winning, you don't say anything because nobody wants to listen to somebody who's winning and whining. And, I don't know what this book is going to be like that Scottie's going to have coming out in the fall. I got to believe there's going to be more of this, bombshells. But I'd been around Scottie. I was always on the periphery with Scottie and maybe vice versa. That when we would do those SportsCenter interviews after those games in the NBA Finals, it'd be rare if I had Scottie in. It'd be Michael. It would be, Phil. And that'd be about it. And Scottie, I think, has had things to say. I just don't know if he's ever been comfortable saying them publicly. And just that buildup. And you're labeled this way of, hey, you're this, oh, yeah, you were with Michael. It's never Scottie, and Scottie had his moment. He was going to take the Bulls to the NBA Finals. And in his mind, this is my team. This is my moment. I mean, he's calling Michael selfish for leaving to go play baseball. Like, there's just a lot of things there to unpack. It doesn't mean that we have to understand it. In Scottie's mind, he's saying, this is obvious to me. Why isn't this obvious to you? And why is it that nobody believes what Scottie Pippen said yesterday? I don't think anybody came to his defense yesterday, and it's a harsh thing to say what he said about Phil Jackson. But is there any truth, validity in this? That's what I'm really, really curious about.
Were you uncomfortable? You never seem uncomfortable, but were you uncomfortable? Because he was, I wouldn't say that he was aggressive, but again, he questioned whether you understood English.
Yeah. That was the part where you just have to push that off. I just had to swat it like Dikembe Mutombo. I didn't want to raise the volume. I wanted to keep him here, and I didn't want to yelling back and forth. And that was the only moment where I'm like, yes, I understand English. I don't have to say it. But that was the one where I thought, okay, he's going to come a little more unhinged here. And I want to be fair to him. And I decided to not say anything and then just keep moving forward.
Dan, what are the keys to being good at this?
Little late for us to be asking that.
What did I tell you? Call me 20 years ago. I would have, as Batard has told me many times, there's nothing better than listening to your own voice. And I always say, you got to listen to the guy you're interviewing, Dan. And he said, no, I have the headphones on. I love listening to my voice. And I can't help you. I can't help you.
That is so unfair what you just did to me. As someone who's credible, people are going to believe that I call you and say, you know what, Dan, listen to me for a second, or this entire time, I'm just going to talk at you. It doesn't even matter if you're there. I love the sound of my own voice.
Well, the person who then said this to me, not just you, was your wife, who said, Dan loves hearing Dan. And I went, he's got a lot to say. He really does.
When you were done with that interview, your reaction was what? Because you can be very hard on yourself about, I could always do better.
Well, I knew that the interview was going to take over the last hour of the show. I wanted to make sure that I was fair to him. That was it. And, I went through the interview. I went through a lot, probably for the 5 hours after that. And, I still question, was I fair to him? I just wanted context. I actually wanted to help him because I thought, man, that's just hanging there. Do you want that there? And then I thought, that's not my job to help him, but I wanted to be fair. So, I probably analyzed it a little bit too much there.
It's interesting that you say that because I was trying to articulate that right before you came on, that I'm always hesitant. And I was considering before we actually did that interview whether I wanted to talk to Scottie Pippen, because there are a handful of athletes in my career who can be coaxed into saying the wrong thing for a headline. And he is one of them. And I thought there were so many better ways. If he wanted to file that accusation, there were a lot better ways to do it than the way that he did.
Yeah, I just wanted examples. And the example with Tony Kukoc, okay, Tony's a better shooter. He used Kobe as an example that Phil wrote a book. And I just said, that's disloyal. That doesn't mean he's racist. He's disloyal. The Steve Kerr timeout where Michael's playing to the cameras and he's calling the play for Steve Kerr to hit the shot. Like, that's an accusation I never heard before. Because I said, I was basically saying, hey, Phil designed a play and Mike was the decoy and Steve Kerr was going to hit the game-winning shot. And Scottie said, no, that's all about Mike playing to the cameras. And I'm going, wow, okay. But I can't dismiss Scottie's view of this, Dan. That's where we can look at this and say, logically, but I think he truly believes this. And that's where I wanted to at least be fair to him.
What's the most uncomfortable you've been doing an interview?
Probably Tanya Harding. This was, 5 years after the Nancy Kerrigan incident. And I had her on, and she was doing a boxing match, a celebrity boxing match in between periods for a minor league hockey team. And I'd never interviewed her. And we started talking, and then she started talking about religion. And I said, well, what did you have religion after what happened with Nancy Kerrigan or before? And then it went sideways after that, because next thing I know, she goes, hold on, Paul wants to talk to you. I don't know who the hell Paul is, but she hands the phone to a guy named Paul, and he goes, "Hey, what's going on here?" I said, "I'm doing an interview. Who are you?" Do we have that clip? Can we play that for Dan?
Hold on a second. Paul wants to talk to you.
Paul Brown, man.
Yeah, Paul.
What's happening?
We're doing a radio interview. Yeah.
Is your life always like that, where you're just wandering around and you say, "This clip that happened in my past, can you play that?"
Paulie
Yes.
is always lingering around, ready to play a clip.
Yeah. My guys are ready, Dan. Unlike your guys yesterday with Pippen, my guys were ready.
Dan, do you sweat?
You got 19 people there. What the hell was happening yesterday? You can't blame everything on Cody, by the way.
We got him a week early, and he made us uncomfortable by pushing back on one thing, and I'm not making it up when I say we immediately started doing shots with him. Like, I totally retreated. I am not confrontational interviewer, guys.
I was terrified, Dan.
Stugotz asked the hardest question. I was just lobbing softball. I've never had so much interest in digits bourbon. You were not uncomfortable, though, because you didn't answer that question for me as a master interviewer. You were not made uncomfortable by all of that.
No, I was hopeful that he understood that I was going to be professional. That was it. That he would know that I'm not trying to interrogate, incite, lead him down a path. I just wanted to have context with this. And that's why when we reached out to him, I said to Fritzy, who does my booking, I said, just tell Scottie I want context on this. That's it. He can promote his bourbon. I want context on this. That's all. And he knew that I was going to ask about it. Although when I said, let's go back to 1994, when you took we've talked about that. No, not all of it here. Let's talk about, what you said about Phil Jackson. Then he was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. He's a racist. I went, all right, we got a conversation here.
Dan, this is why, it's not the only reason, but it's one of the many reasons that you are the greatest of the Dans. Thank you for being on with us, for being a pillar of professionalism and fairness. It is rare, Stugotz, in the age of clicks and everything else. It is super rare that Dan Patrick, with great grace, isn't trying to bait Scottie Pippen into something. He's just trying to be fair to a human being. So it is a nice way to conduct business, antiquated though it is in these days. Dan, thank you for being on with us, buddy.
Why do you do the comments and Stugotz doesn't get to say anything?
Thanks for being on, DP.
Thank you, Scott.
You're a legend.
I appreciate that,
Absolutely.
Stugotz.
Because as you mentioned, and I will call you later to tell this to you again, I love the sound of my own voice.
I know. Oh, I know. And you love to FaceTime. I hate FaceTime.
The worst, yeah.
Okay, so don't. He FaceTimed me a couple of weeks ago. He's on the couch with his wife. Your shirt's
Shirtless.
off.
Yep.
Shirtless,
And I go,
the worst.
yeah. Like if you said, hey, somebody's going to have their top off, I didn't want you to have your top off.
Whoa, I like time with your face.
I got to go.
See you later.
You have a good radio show to do.
See you guys. Thank you, bud.